So, it's finally time to hear the truth. The scouts, the Cincinnati Bengals scouts, responded to comments and questions around the NFL draft. Because let's be honest, I've heard so many Bengals fans say, why didn't we take a tight end? Why didn't we take a running back? Why did we wait so long to take a running back? There was no tight ends. Well, here's the answers. So, Bengals.com sat down with the Bengals director of college scouting, Mike Potts. So they sat down with the director of scouting, college scouting, Mike Potts, to ask him questions about the NFL draft. Here's the first question. Could you have drawn up this one any better? An edge, 2 corners, a wide receiver who led the nation in catches and is one of the best returners in the draft, another receiver who was the best player in his league, and a punter? It seems like you hit every need but tight end. Ooh, we're starting off right away with no tight end pick. If I knew how this draft would play out, I would have been very happy with it. Other positions we could have liked to have addressed? Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes that's just not how it shakes out. There are guys who work through the process that gets eliminated for medical reasons, character reasons. Why do I feel like this is Darnell Washington? There was a lot of talk about with medical problems, Darnell Washington. I feel like this was because this was Darnell Washington, medical reasons. As you get the coaches in the process, they don't see a great vision for the players from a scheme perspective. But as you get the coaches in the process, they don't see a great vision for a player from a scheme perspective. Okay. So pretty much he loved the way this draft panned it out in the end. But at the end of the day, listen, some players, depending on medical reasons or character reasons, they're off the board. So this is kind of what we expected to be the truth. That, at the end of the day, we have players that we like as fans, but sometimes those players are eliminated before the draft even begins, depending on certain reasons. So we might say, why didn't they take this guy? And since he's sitting there like, that guy's not even on our board. What are you talking about, him? We're not even looking. We weren't looking at him at all. So that's interesting. Okay. It certainly seems like you guys had those first 3 picks. Like, it certainly seems like you guys had those first 3 picks. Clemson edge rusher Myles Murphy, Michigan corner DJ Turner, and Alabama safety Jordan Battle. Graded very highly. They were guys we targeted. There was always a conversation about what order do you take them in, just playing the different depth of different positions on the draft board. Myles, we had very high up there. We probably had 7 or 8 teams interested in coming up to number 28. Myles Murphy was a guy we didn't want to pass up on. There's not a lot of things you can really knock him on. His upside is immense. He's really a good player already. It's also almost scary what he could do as he continues to develop. He's still a young guy, only 21 years old. Good kid, good character. He wants to come in here and work. And I think getting with a really good defensive line coach like we have in Marion Hobby, it's going to be an outstanding pairing between the two. An easy selection for us. I already texted that to one of my good sources down there in Clemson. It's an easy selection for us. Just thanking those guys that give you good information on behind-the-scenes scouting and all that stuff. It's a couple of other guys may have been off the board. Maybe we would have felt like we were dropping down a level of player, but we got one of the most talented players in the draft at the bottom of the first round. There are not too many human beings in the world with those measurables, and he's a good player on top of that. He's not a big guy who runs fast. He's not just a big guy that can run fast. He can bend the edge. He's long. He got power, and I don't think he's anywhere near his ceiling yet. There was 8 teams trying to trade up to the 28th overall pick. That is 7 or 8 teams trying to get to the 28th overall pick. So Cincinnati could have probably gotten the bag for that pick. They probably could have gotten the bag for that pick. Don't get me wrong. Miles Murphy's great. I'm happy Miles Murphy. But they could have probably gotten the bag for that pick. Okay. Listen, at the end of the day, I said this before and I'll say it again. I love the pick. I think Miles Murphy has one of the highest ceilings of any player in this draft. The man's an absolute monster. He would have been a top 15 pick if not for injuries. He's an amazing player. Since Turner was the fastest guy at the NFL Scout Combine, you must have had him up there too. A lot of these really fast guys are stiff, linear, straight line athletes. This guy has a really good change of direction. Really good quickness and coverage. Really good just overall coverage skills. He's a narrow frame guy, but he's really tough. He flies around. He throws his body around. Really physical. We think he can play inside and outside. There's not a lot of holes in the game as he continues to develop. His body can add a little bit of bulk. That's the thing when we go down and meet with the head strength and conditioning coach, Joey Bozis, and the strength staff, and EB, Director of Player Relations, Eric Ball is what EB is, in our player development. As people and physically, what is the best way to set these guys up for success? With DJ, as he continues to mature at bulk and strength, he's just going to continue to ascend as a player. If those guys want the top of our board when our pick was up, we wouldn't have taken them. Absolutely, these guys were the top of our board. And again, this goes back to the whole, they take best player available every single time, no matter what. So if you're not the best player available, they're not going to take you. So whoever the top of the board is, they just go, bam, that's our guy. Doesn't matter about position, need, anything, that's our guy. Does the premium of the position figure into grades? It doesn't figure into the position. You grade that guy for his position. For example, our grading scale for first, second, and third round grades mean you can see that guy has starting caliber talent. You may give a quarterback a second round grade because you see him as a mid-level starter. But the quarterback is the most premium position of all sports, not just football. So a mid-level starting quarterback is worth a first round grade in most drafts. That makes perfect sense. So, for example, the best punter, right? The best punter at his position might only be worth a 6th round pick, right? The best punter. Be this a punter, right? But if it's a quarterback, the worst quarterback might still have the grade of a 1st round pick. Even though he might be the worst quarterback on the board, worst quarterback on the board, he still might have a 1st round grade. Even though the punter is the best punter on the board, his position is not as valuable as quarterback. So that makes perfect sense. You still have to grade them. You still have to grade what they are and move them up the board at times at the end of the process when you put things together on the final board. If you stack up all the grades, a quarterback might be down at 30. But if you need a quarterback that year, and because of how important that position is, he slides inside your top 10. In the 3rd round, Jordan Battle was clearly the top of our board. Now, do you have conversations? Hey, we've taken mostly defensive players in the last several draft picks. Should we take an offensive guy? Yeah. You can come up with different perspectives, but at the end of the day, we stick to our grades and took the highest player. Okay, that's actually another really cool information then. So, at the end of the 3rd round, there wasn't too many players that I loved other than running backs. But Tank was already taken by the end of the 3rd round. So there wasn't too many offensive players I like. But it is interesting that they do keep in perspective that, listen, maybe we should take an offensive guy. But our best player available is Jordan Battle, so we're going to take the best player available. So it's kind of like they think of it and they talk about it and they consider it, but at the end of the day, you're going to still take your best player available no matter what. You could have taken a receiver, Purdue returner, Charlie Jones, you took in the 4th round, in the 3rd round. Some would say you need a receiver more than a safety. We talked about Charlie there in the 3rd round. We like Charlie for what he does. But we let our board speak to us there. And it usually turns out well when you do. You don't feel like you're reaching. You also have to play the depth. We thought Jordan Battle is a starting caliber safety in the NFL. We thought maybe if we wait around later for a safety, depending on how the board gets picked over, we could potentially be moving down a bigger level of a player than a receiver. That makes perfect sense. So if you take, let's say, for example, a safety later, when honestly the safety class was absolutely awful outside of the top couple picks, then you might be getting a backup or a press squad guy over getting, Jordan Battle, who's actually could be starting on the roster. And then again, with Charlie Jones, I mean, listen, he got taken later. It is what it is, but he was still available. So you're saying they risk not getting him so that they could at least get a starting safety, which honestly I think is a bigger need than wide receiver. So I do like that a lot. You probably will also fielding trade calls. We have a bunch of trade calls to move back. We absolutely had our eye on Battle, and we didn't want to move back too far to lose him. So we had a number of offers to move back further in the 4th round. When we got a call from KC to move back 3 spots, that ended up being the most attractive because we thought just looking at what other teams' needs were behind us, we felt pretty safe. You never know because our other team could trade up. But we felt pretty strongly that we could get Battle and an extra pick. We went into the draft hoping we could pick up at least 2 or 3 extra picks, but that's just the way it played out. Yeah, it makes sense. Again, this is why, when they traded back, we were all confused. We're like, what are you doing, man? You could get Darnell Washington. In their mind, the whole time they're sitting there like, Jordan Battle? Yep, Jordan Battle's the guy, guys. Jordan Battle's the guy. Everyone in Cincinnati. Darnell Washington, this is it. This is Darnell Washington's pick. Why did you just trade back? It's funny how you look at fans and then you look at the actual NFL draft and how it panned out. Did you talk about Michigan punters Brad Robbins before you ended up picking him with the extra pick at 217? Michigan punter Bryce Bangerer, whatever his name is, went to New England Patriots 192. You had a pick at 206. We talked about the punter throughout the draft. Obviously, we weren't taking one in the first couple rounds. It felt like there was a lot of teams that had punter needs and specialist needs. You can study it ad nauseum and earmark all the teams and highlights ones that could take one, but you never know. One of the teams may be one of the up and coming picks, and they could always trade up and move in front of us, or someone could take a guy unexpectedly. There's a lot of conversations on punters for sure. If we didn't take the punter here, could we get him later? If we take the punter here, what is going to be available for us in the next round? It ended up working out for us because Brad has been the guy we've been targeting, and we think he could come in and add a really good competition and have a chance of winning the starting job. Nothing is going to be final right now. It has to be competed for. But he's absolutely was the guy we liked, and there were a few other guys we had targeted at a different level. You just have to play the board and see how it works out in the end. You took Princeton's receiver, Andre, first in the 6th round at 206 than Robbins. We had grades higher on Andre than where he went. When you look at his measurables, the guy is pretty much a world-class athlete. There's tons of upsides. I think we got one of the best receiver coaches in the league, Troy Walters, and it's really exciting what he can do with him and where he can develop. The guy been doing track for 2 seasons out of the year. He hasn't had a chance to play special teams because he's been the best player on his team, and who he's playing against is pretty much who he's playing against pretty much every week of his college career. At the end of the day, we just followed our board. We didn't feel like we were reaching. It felt like he was too good to pass up. Did you know Robbins would be 11 picks later? No, but you're taking a gamble on everyone. You're taking a gamble on every pick that you make. So what you're saying is, why didn't you just take the punter first and then Andre? And he's saying, listen, because Andre was the best player on our board. We're not going to take the punter first if the punter's, next level down to Andre. So, okay. But didn't you panic when Michigan State punter went? We didn't panic because we knew it would be a possibility. That's why you work all year to have that board. That's why there's hundreds of discussions about different scenarios and about ranking the players. We like the Michigan State punter. Did we think we were 100% going to get him over Brad Robbins or another punter? No. We know there's a lot of scenarios that would play out, and this was one of them, and we were comfortable with it. Did it ever seem right for taking a tight end? We liked a lot of tight ends in the draft. It just didn't break that way. We felt the guys that we took, where we took them, were the best players for us. We would have felt like if we would have been going down a level of player, if we have taken someone else. We feel like we would have been going down a level of player if we took someone else. So again, this is, like I said before, you say, why did you take, Miles Murphy over, Michael Mayer? As he says right here, he feels like they would be going down a level of player by taking Michael Mayer over Miles Murphy. Why didn't you take in the second round, DJ Turner over Donnell Washington? We felt like we'd be going down a level of player by taking Donnell Washington over DJ Turner. Third round, same thing. After day one or two of the draft, you're looking at, does this upgrade what we already have? Irv Smith, Drew Sample, Devin, and the rest of the tight end room. Who knows how it rounds into form once we get into training camp? Would these guys really upgrade them? Yes, maybe. That's a lot of guys wouldn't upgrade. The reason to take a guy is we have these guys on the last year of their deals, and you potentially have a guy under contract for 4 years. It just doesn't break that way. It was definitely something on the top of our minds, and we liked to have all the things being equal. We had an extra pick. Maybe if we had 2 extra picks, it would have been easier to make that happen. That's interesting. So they said maybe if we had 2 extra picks, they would have taken the tight end in the 6th round, the 7th round. This is what we expected. Okay? This is what we've been kind of understanding with the draft. The Cincinnati Bengals went best player available every single time. They have a draft board of all the players they like listed. Michael Mayer was on that draft board somewhere. Donnell Washington was on that board somewhere. Tank Bigsley was on that board somewhere. Moro Jabo. You list the player, right? All these players. They took based on who their best player at that time was. So as the players are going, they're taking the names off the draft board. And if Jordan Battle is the best name on that draft board, it does not matter if Donnell Washington's available. Because Donnell Washington might have been number 40 when, Jordan Battle was number 28. So it is what it is at the end of the day, like I said before. I think this draft class is amazing. I love this draft class. We didn't get tight end, and it sucks, and it is what it is, but that's a part of the NFL draft. That's a part of football. I think this this draft class is fine. I think tight end will be fine. Running back will be fine. We have a second wave of free agency coming out sometime very, very soon on June 1st. We'll be fine. RELAX. Relax. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.